Hello Ride On people. So I'm out on the Tiger. What a stunning day. 70 degrees, blue sky, sunshine. Out with the homies on a little ride out. Having a great day, great roads, great company, great scenery. And on a great bike, my 2023 Triumph Tiger 1200 Rally Explorer in khaki green with the white frame. And I just freaking love this thing so far, I do have to say. I had the 600 mile service done in the week by those great people at Triumph Roswell. Really good people, couldn't do enough for me, and they also fitted my black Expedition Triumph official panniers and frames. It's nice to have top loading panniers again. They do feel very sturdy and very rugged in their aluminum finish, and they look pretty smart in black. And they also use the ignition key, so no spare keys required. I have my Zumo XT Garmin mounted on the EvoTech bracket, and now I've also got an EvoTech bracket on the headstock so that I can mount my wireless charging anti-vibration quad lock mount. I've relocated my B-line to the handlebars, and it's just a little bit more in direct sunshine where I can see it. I don't know how much of the dash clocks you can see, but it's pretty clear on the eyes when you're actually riding. And I'm averaging between 40 to 50 mpg and around 300 miles in terms of range. The motor is starting to feel really nice on this, and I generally just ride it in road mode because I like the ride quality and the smoothness of the throttle response in that particular mode. I have sometimes put it in sport mode on the twistier roads, and you can feel it kind of firm things up a little bit, and the throttle response is just that little bit more direct, but I generally just like the road mode. On the Ducati I had it in sport mode nearly all the time on the Multistrada, and on the BMW GSA I always wanted it in dynamic mode, which is its sportiest mode suspension throttle wise. But so far I'm digging the ride quality of this bike. It is very similar to the Ducati in that respect. When you want to put it in comfort mode on the Ducati, it kind of gives a nice kind of floaty, nice feeling like the GSA does as standard, but more in a kind of sporty mode on the GSA. But the throttle response is that a little bit more immediate on the Tiger, I would say, and I really like the sound of that engine as well. The two-plane crank in the Triumph, you know, low down, and the grunt and the gearing it has, it really makes it a lot smoother, I would say, low down. A lot more like the BMW in that respect in terms of grunt and smoothness, and in the mid-range and the higher RPM it's got a real nice smoothness and a little bit more pep, I would say, than the BMW in that respect. But overall this bike is definitely more BMW GSA than the KTM or the Ducati. If you want practicality and you want to do big miles, this or the BMW makes perfect sense. You've got the big 7-gallon tank, you've got the shaft drive, and you've got the comfortable seats, good suspension, and some nice electronics, like the blind spot monitoring, for instance. You've got your heated grips, you've got your heated seats, and when I left the house this morning, it was just over 50 degrees. It's the first cold snap of the year, and it's really nice to have that extra heat on your backside and on your hands. So far loving the bike, and so far loving having heated grips and heated seats, because we've just had the first cold snap, as I say. I did have some initial reservations as to whether the 21-inch front wheel was going to work okay for me or not, and I can say that it's been totally fine so far. I have ridden other bikes with the 21 front, like the Africa Twin and Tenere, but they both feel a little bit awkward to me at times. They're okay in the dry, but at times on some dodgy surfaces in the wet, I'm not sure I would fully trust their front ends of those two bikes. Certainly not to the extent you would a smaller wheel, perhaps with wider rubber. And they're okay, but you may have to build just a little bit larger safety margin, and you know, to kind of overcome that. But on the Tiger 1200, it feels much more like a 19-inch front, as the forks are a little bit steeper than on the its brother, the GT model. The road version comes with a little more agility, of course, and it has a little bit more grip. But so far on the 21 inch, I don't have an issue, and the Krios street tyres seem to work pretty well. But this is a tall bike. Believe me, I'm 6'2" and I'm not flat-footed. I'm on the balls of my feet, and I'm not on tippy toes, but I'm definitely not flat-footed either. So, you need to be tall to ride this specific model in the range, that's for sure. And the bike most guys will get on best with is probably the GT in that respect, I would say. So, but if you're tall, if you're 6'2", 6'4" or something, you're going to absolutely love the legroom. And if you're under 6 foot, then you might want to look at the GT Road versions, particularly. And there's some pros and cons, in that, not least the overseat measurement is lower, plus, the GT models have the smaller front wheel and the wider section tyre, so you do get that little bit more traction, that little bit more feedback on the road. And I suspect the suspension is also a little bit firmer, so you'll get a little bit less dive. Now, if you're a heavy braker, and I'm not particularly a heavy braker, I get most of my braking done using engine braking, and I'm a very smooth rider with the throttle, and so I don't really brake at all, really, all that much at the sort of typical speeds we do on our typical ride outs. And that's one reason why I have a brake free mounted to the back of my helmet. Actually, it's so that people can actually see when I'm rolling off the throttle and slowing down on the engine braking alone. And I rarely touch the brakes, and so it doesn't bother me, but if you're somebody that's coming off a race replica and you like to brake at the 11th hour, like your MkIIs in MotoGP or something, then you might think the dive is a little bit excessive. And the brakes are definitely very strong. They are full Brembo Stylema, so no complaints in the braking department. And it's also full LEDs all the way around. The lighting is very good. The shaft drive is also excellent. It's a really nice design. It's really solid. It looks very well engineered, and in terms of its operation, it's cake basically. It's super smooth. It feels like a super well adjusted chain, and you just cannot tell that it is shaft drive at all. There's no rising sensation as you accelerate, and there's no on-off clunk type thing. If you want shaft drive, this is definitely one of the better ones, and it's just nice not having a chain to adjust. It's not the end of the world, but you don't have to have a chain to lube, or remove lube from your back tyre, or have to get down on your hands and knees and check the adjustment and clean and oil it. And I say that's not really the end of the world. It's just a convenience, right? It's just like the large tank, and there's always pros and cons each way. But for instance, with the large tank, you're carrying more weight on the bike, and you're carrying it higher up, which is typically where you don't want to carry it. But equally, if it's nice to have a 300-mile range, and of course it never gets old or never harms to stop somewhere where there is a beautiful scenic view by a forest and a mountain and a lake, instead of a gas station forecourt. So it's nice having that range, particularly when you're touring. It's kind of nice to have the volume of the fuel, but also I'm surprised that the economy is as good as it is. It's a 3-cylinder at the end of the day. It's not 2, but it is very noticeable. It's noticeably better than the multi, and I never really worry about economy, but I'm more about enjoying the ride. But one thing that does annoy me is when the enjoyment stops if you run out of fuel quickly, and on the multi-strada that's typically around 170 miles, so having nearly twice the range is very nice. And the GT and Rally Pro models also have 5-gallon tanks, so that's pretty decent range wise, but less equipment than this Rally Explorer. You know, this Rally Explorer has the lower engine protection bars, the upper engine protection bars, the spotlights, the bigger bash plate, heated seats and grips. They're all standard, and all of those are extras, apart from maybe the heated grips, I think, on the Pro models. So what you have to say to yourself is, you know, what I did, I said to myself, what accessories do I want, and you know, what would I buy? Well, I want some spotlights, and you know, I would really miss the heated seat from the multi, so I would want the heated seat and grips and stuff. And you know, before you know it, you've bought the Explorer model. So for me, it was really a no-brainer just to go out and get the Explorer. There are pros and cons with every bike, every model, and this just happened to have the fewest for me this year. You know, one thing that really appealed was the 10,000 mile service intervals, fantastic dealers, and I have 3 fantastic dealers, and one is in my hometown itself, so that's perfect. And I have a great relationship with the owner and all of the staff there. I know they will look after me at Triumph Roswell, and there is a lot to be said for that. And I like the idea that the tyres are, you know, a little less expensive, and the long service intervals, as I mentioned, and the tank range and the low maintenance. It's all nice, you know, basically having shaft drive and comfort. I love the colour scheme. The khaki green and white frame just appealed to me, and I thought I would like that colour scheme, but it seems that everybody else seems to absolutely love it, which was kind of a bit of a surprise to me. And also kind of brings me to the next thing you probably won't see for a number of weeks, but I'm picking up later this week, and that is also green. It is the year of the green vehicles, and you can see the vehicle in a video in a few weeks' time. So that'll be my next ride that's coming up, and you'll have to look out. You know, you have to keep watching basically to see what it is that I've bought. But I do have a second green vehicle coming. The screen adjustment on this one is one finger up and down, and the whole bike feels so much more together than the old Tiger. It's like a completely new bike that just happens to be called Tiger. The old one was top heavy, and it was heavy, and it wasn't that dynamic and not that characterful really, not memorable. Put it that way, it's kind of more like transport, I guess, for a number of people. Not everybody would agree with that opinion, but I think a lot of people would. And this is totally different. You know, with the T-plane crank, that changed things quite a bit with the different firing order. It certainly feels different low down when you kind of labour the engine. It makes that lovely thumping sound, more like a parallel twin, I would say. The mid-range is much, you know, has the smoothness of the triple, and the top end is more, you know, concentrating on the riding, let's be honest, when you get up to those kind of speeds. Certainly the running in speed, which is 6,000 RPM, I can go a little bit faster now as I'm closer to 1,000 miles, but 6,000 RPM in top is 85 miles per hour. And I know that because my friend with a private road let me go up to that speed, and that's what it said. So there you go. So there are a couple of other things I want to mention. Firstly, the first gear is great. It's really tall, and that's really handy in the tight, twisty sections where you want to go around the corner at 30 miles an hour or something, and you don't want to be changing gear. And often first is too short and second is too high. But first gear on this bike is kind of perfect, and it's a really useful gear. The second thing is the quick shifter. It goes up and down like cake. You just don't have to be accelerating hard to get a smooth upshift, and you don't have to be on the overrun to get a smooth downshift. With this thing you can just keep it at a constant speed, and it would just go up and down like mad. So Triumph did a real nice job there. It's even better. I rode it back to back with my friend's Multistrada V4S, which I thought was the best quick shifter ever made, and we both agreed the new Tiger one is, you know, it's top of the tree now. So what don't I like? The only thing well, there's kind of two things that could be better. The first is a multimedia system, is Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and that means you're locked into their proprietary system if you want to use it, and that means you can't run other applications on your phone, such as Waze, to see where the hazards are ahead, like police are dealing with an accident, for instance. And it's exactly the same for BMW and Ducati, so I can't moan about that too much, but I just wish they stick Apple CarPlay or something on it instead. The second thing is a slight annoyance, and that is that the 12-volt DIN socket in the dashboard, Triumph made it permanently live. I think they've done that for the Optimate charger, but the one that the Pillion has is live with ignition, and I just wish they'd done those two things the other way around, so that for those people that don't want to use the multimedia system, they can still charge their phone and use the GPS and get their power straight from the dashboard. And I hope that Triumph are listening and are going to change that moving forwards, because it's it's just a slight fly in the ointment, but I think it could be better. I got around it using a product called Haptik Thunderbox, but others I do know are moaning to their dealers saying, can't you hardwire this for me with a live ignition feed? However, other noteworthy things are things like the heated grips with the button built into the grip itself. That's very discreet and doesn't require a separate button, and I really like the way they've done that. The heated seat is definitely plenty warm enough, and I find that at certain revs the screen can be a little noisy, but it doesn't annoy me enough to want to change it or put a lip on it at this point. I will certainly see what it's like to use over the winter period, when we tend to get kind of colder airflow and more wind flow. So the mirrors work very well. They're vibe free. They give a much clearer indication of what is behind you than the Multistrada did, and the blind spot indicators are at the bottom of the mirror. Perhaps as a preference I wish they were at the top, but they do work well and are clear. So what else can I tell you? Well, comfort is good, legroom is good, the rubber inserts on the foot pegs are good. Pegs are very nice, very little to dislike at this point in time. The bike is easy to stand up on while you're riding at speed and let the blood flow back to your legs. The road in the video here is super bumpy at places, but on the original audio, which unfortunately I could not use due to a technical problem, it wasn't affecting my speech at all when I was talking, and I wasn't losing my fillings or anything like that. It's pretty nice ride quality wise. It's a good bike for doing big miles on, for sure. I'm trying to think of something more constructive and negative to say, but I do think this is a particularly good all-round machine. And I think when I test drove the demo, I did say that the kindest thing that I could say about it was that this is the complete article. It is the finished product. It's not a beta product that they're giving to new owners to test for them. This is a thoroughly well developed and thoroughly well tested machine, and I do hope that and I do think that they will take a decent chunk out of the massive BMW pie for people that don't want BMWs, or have had, maybe if you're already like myself, I've had 4 and just fancy a change, fancy something different. This is a very, very capable and competent machine, and full credit and to Triumph really for doing the job right and bringing out something that is very competitive, and not taking the easy route by saying, we'll try and take a few sales from Ducati and KTM. Instead, they just went straight for the jugular. They went for the daddy in terms of sales. They want to get people, they want to give people a very credible alternative option to buying a BMW. I'm very glad they have. The main thing for me that stopped me going back to BMW was the service intervals are nearly twice as long on the Triumph as they are on the BMW. And also the Triumph is a little bit more dynamic and fun and exciting to ride, and personally I just happen to have a really good local dealer, which is always a bonus as well. But anyway, what a beautiful day. Thank you so much for joining me in my initial update on this bike with 800 miles or so on it now. Obviously there's going to be a lot more to come, so thank you for your time today, guys, and nice one. Keep it sunny side up. Hey you, if you want to become one of the Ride On people, don't forget to subscribe. Ride often, ride carefully, ride on.